Morning, Mr. Williams. This is sort of deja vu because 22 years ago I interviewed you and you started working at my law office as a law clerk. So we're ready for your opening statement.
Thank you. It is deja vu. Good morning, commissioners.
Morning.
Thank you for the opportunity to introduce myself. My name is ConGarry D. Williams. I was born and raised in Brooklyn, New York by my mom, Dorothy Ann Williams, who was a single parent. I have a bachelor's degree, a bachelor's of business administration from Bernard M. Baruch College for the City University of New York. I majored in accounting, minored in psychology, graduated in May of 1989. I have a Master's of Arts degree from the University of Wisconsin-Madison. My emphasis was African American Studies, history. I graduated in May of 1995. My law degree is from Drake University Law School. I'm of the class of 2000. May of 2000 is when I graduated. I also was granted a license to preach in June 2003. This was conferred by Antioch Baptist Church in Waterloo, Iowa. In March of 2007, I was married. My wife and I have a beautiful daughter who will turn 3 March of this year. In August of 2008, I was ordained a pastor. I serve at New Beginnings Full Gospel Family Church here in Des Moines. A senior pastor is Bishop E.L. Dillard. I serve as the pastor of new members. I also volunteer with the Corinthian Baptist Church here in Des Moines, Iowa, and holding worship services every 4th Sunday at the Mitchellville facility. My legal research and writing skills were sharpened during my time serving on the Drake Journal of Agricultural Law. I worked on 2 issues as a junior staffer for 2 semesters. I worked on 2 issues as managing editor for 2 semesters. For the last 9 years, I have been a defense attorney, specializing in criminal law and representing low-income clients in the counties of Black Hawk County, Polk County, Story County, Marshall County, and Tama County. During my years serving as a criminal defense attorney, I have gained critical thinking skills, trial strategies, a zealous advocacy for my clients. I've learned negotiating techniques, mastered the art of compromise, mastered the art of thinking well on my feet and thinking outside the box. I'm seeking a justice position because I have high esteem and a sincere respect for the court. I believe in fairness, justice, and serving people. My appointment would enhance the court by adding to the expertise of criminal law, expanding the knowledge of indigent representation, and providing a refreshing perspective, energy, and enthusiasm. Thank you for the time for me to introduce myself.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Let's start on the end here with Mr. Holmes. They keep taking the microphone from him, so I don't know.
They do. I talk way too much. Thank you, Justice Wiggins, and thank you, Mr. Williams, for replying, and let me apologize for not being able to get together with you. I also wanted to comment that you obviously have a relationship with one of the finest churches in Waterloo, in Antioch Baptist. I've known many members of that church, and it's a fine organization. I wanted to ask you, because you obviously have a strong faith, and you've become an ordained minister and so forth. If you were to serve on the Supreme Court and you felt that the law in some way conflicted with your deeply held religious beliefs, how would you resolve that conflict?
Commissioner Holmes, thanks for that appreciation of Antioch Baptist Church. It was, while the time I was there in Waterloo, it celebrated over 90 years. And for full disclosure, one of our deacons, O.B. Sadler Jr., worked at your law firm for over 10 years. A great question, because I already deal with that issue of strong faith with being a criminal defense attorney. Many of my friends in the faith and as well as in the bar think I have a conflict. But I enjoy what Dean Olson, who was the Waterloo adult supervisor when I first came in to the system in 2002, told me. He said, Gary, our job is to give them the best defense possible. It's not our job to win all the time. Your client wants you to, but it's your job to give them the best defense. And that's what I've done as a criminal defense attorney. And I believe as a justice, I'm not there to write law. So there is, wherever my faith conflicts with the process that we're going through, my faith has to be set aside for the law and the precedent that's already been set. And the justice position is just not the place for any of that. If you want to be an advocate, that's a different role. I am an advocate now as a criminal defense attorney, but one of the biggest adjustments will be just being that, not being an advocate anymore, being fair and impartial, listening to both sides, and then looking at the precedent that's there and making the decision that needs to be made. But hopefully, there have been others who've come across the commission's path who've had strong faith and who've been able to reconcile also their faith with serving. Thank you, Commissioner Holm.
Anybody else down this way? Let's go to the other side. Professor Cochran.
Thanks for your application, Mr. Williams. I had a kind of a follow-up question on something you mentioned in your opening remarks about the perspective you can bring to the court given the kind of work that you've done. And with the court's administrative role, what do you think some of the challenges in the next decade or so are, especially when it comes to the rights of criminal defendants, their access to the system, their access to justice? I guess, what can you speak to these challenges given the kind of work that you've done the last several years?
Commissioner Cochran, that is a great question. That to be adequately fleshed out would take more time than what we have. I will try to succinctly just hit on a few hot topics, the things that push my button. And over the years, I think we have a growing problem with the non-English speaking defendants that come to us. I think that no matter which county I've worked in, it has been a challenge to have high quality interpreters. Interpreters at a level that can function so that even the attorney is confident that that the adequate services are being provided. If I go over 3 paragraphs in the first of a plea agreement and I hear one sentence from an interpreter, that causes me to have pause. And I think we are having greater demands on our system for non-English speaking defendants, not less. And so in terms of being able to know that they're not only being able to understand what's going on in a clear impact, but the other big hot button issue is the impact of immigration law and what we do in service to our clients on the defense and criminal defense side. It has gotten to the place where a criminal defense attorney has to also not dabble, become somewhat of a semi-expert in immigration law. And I tell you, the reason why I avoided immigration law in law school is because I didn't want to tangle myself up any more than I had to with income tax expense. Unfortunately, Professor Monroe was a great professor, but his love and passion for it just didn't rub off on me. Finally, as far as administration role in a broader sense, our system, the court system, as a whole, is just, cases are going up on both sides, civil and criminal. In terms of access, I know a few years ago, a report that I saw that I was really excited about talked about the idea of satellite kiosks at different county courthouses that people would be able to access them. The idea was done by a commission report. I don't know how far along the branches are making those things a reality, but that would go a long way to helping. And of course, the last thing would be to get to the place where we're paperless. That would, an administrative role, that would help costs tremendously. Thanks, Commissioner Cochran. I hope
Thank you.
Ms. Walker?
Feels strange to call you Mr. Williams.
yes.
We went to law school together, but from your paperwork, it's obvious that you have a much different background as far as growing up and experiences that you would have that a lot of the other applicants wouldn't have. Can you talk to us about how you think that might enhance your role with the court?
Thank you, Commissioner Walker, and it's a little awkward too to say Commissioner Walker. My background is infused with more than just the strength of being born and raised in New York City, because if you haven't visited my hometown, you will know that it's one of the fastest paced cities around, and one that never sleeps, and that offers the joys of the Guggenheim and the Met and opera, some great things culturally, which I always have sought to find when I was in a different locale, rather California, Wisconsin, even here in home now, Iowa. I think one of the best things, though, my background teaches me, and that was so ingrained in me, even before being a high school student, where I went to Brooklyn Technical High School, which was at the time that I was there, one of 3 specialized high schools in New York City. The sister schools are Stuyvesant High School and Bronx High School of Science. These are the schools that were magnet schools before Reagan talked about magnet schools. Westinghouse winners come out of our school, Regents, diplomas. We're always challenged. I had a student body in that high school that was 6,000 strong. My freshman class was 2,000. We'd have talent nights where we had people play instruments from Bosnia, Ukraine, different things. I have been enmeshed in an environment of always taking in multifaceted inputs, intellectually, emotionally, on every different level. And so I come to a problem that way too. I look multifaceted, and when someone just tells me, well, this is the way it's been done all the time, sometimes I have to seek out the person who's been there long enough to tell me, well, then how did this start? And then when you find out some things have been on the whim of, let's say in a local county, a smaller county, just the way things have been done, just from county attorney practice, preference. It's hard to move a train a different direction with that, but that's the challenge that I will take on, because I'll look at the different facets, the personal, the stream of court administration, other ways to make, to solve a problem. And I think that's what my background does, because New York City, growing up in New York City, made a demand of me to be multicultural, a demand of me to expand my educational for us in multifaceted ways. And the other spots where I've been have just added to that. Living in San Jose, California, living in Madison, Wisconsin, starting off in Grinnell, Iowa, before I came to Des Moines for law school. They've all made demands on me to stretch me as a person and intellectually and personally. Thanks.
Ms. Dixon.
Good morning, Mr. Williams. Thank you very much for, excuse me, thank you very much for putting your name in today, and also thank you very much for your commitment to the defense of, quite frankly, those who can't afford a criminal defense. I think it's a tremendous job and a tremendous work that you've undertaken since you've been working as a public defender. In any event, as you know, for the Supreme Court, you'll be doing work in other issues, family law, constitutional law, contracts. Just tell us how you'll plan on sort of switching gears and addressing other areas of the law that you haven't really been working on in the last few years.
Thanks, Commissioner Dixon. It's not a new challenge, I'm sure. I'm sure other justices have come to the bench with an expertise leaning in one area than the other. So the first place I would start is to tap in to other justices' experience who's experienced the same thing that I will, and how did they get on top of the learning curve? How did they get there themselves? I am an avid reader. I am, and I just love learning for learning's sake. There is a little bit more broadness to my background, even though the last 9 years have been criminal defense. When I was at Drake Law School, I participated in 3 clinics. First clinic, the year that was there was an administrative law clinic, and it didn't produce as many cases as the clinic staff had hoped that it would. Then I came back and did a general practice clinic with them where I had some civil law and elder law that was a part of my background there, as well as criminal. And then I finished my time at the Drake Legal Clinic with an advanced civil clinic. And then my first job out of law school was with Iowa Legal Services, when it was called Iowa Legal Services. Now it's called Iowa Legal Aid, in their Mason City office. And I did some work up there with them for a few months. I don't shunt my eye to the other areas of the law that's going on when there's an issue that comes up. I'll read about it. Since October 2009, I am currently in the Des Moines Juvenile Public Defender office. And in that office, I've had the opportunity to also do the juvenile docket. So I have been able to see a breadth of a whole different world in the juvenile side. Juvenile delinquency cases, have been trained in child in need of assistance cases. So there's been a little bit of breadth. I'm aware there will be a jump, there will be a leap, but I will trust the fact that other justices have been able to bridge that gap, and that I'll be able to do it as well, with some hard work and some perseverance.
Thank you.
Any other questions down that way? Mr. Cook, I think you have a question.
I do. Thank you, Justice Wiggins. Mr. Williams, Reverend Williams, thank you for applying. You have a unique background, and one of the things I saw in your application that might be the only of the 60 who've applied, you have an accounting degree and worked as an expense accountant and cost accountant for IBM in San Jose, California. The court is faced with dwindling resources as it manages its budget and its work. Is there anything about that degree and your experience that you think would aid the court in managing those dwindling resources?
Now you're talking about the first passion that I have, was accounting. I loved numbers. I loved math as I grew up. I finished math early, a year and a half early in my high school. I was honors math student. I always loved numbers. The other side of a passion is businesses. I always liked John Brooks' books and keeping in touch with what's going on Wall Street. Numbers don't lie, but that's one of the adages that I've had. But liars figure, is what some have said. And for me, The accounting is a backbone of any business, be it profit or nonprofit. And the way to go at really a helpful analysis of what's going on in a particular situation, which is crisis of dwindling resources, is to make sure, and I used to do this, I was an accounting intern at Moody's Investor Service. I was in, while I was my last senior year of high school. And one of the things I used to do for them, variance accounts, we have to look at a history of account to see a pattern, to see what's going on. What my background would help is to uniquely, if the numbers have been crunched, to be able to do the analysis needed to go behind the numbers and see what's done. That's been very much a part of my background. That's always been there. It will be help that's needed because pulling numbers apart, having an accounting degree helps.
Thank you.
Thank you. I saw that my light
no,
went red.
No, we have time for you. Any
Oh,
other questions?
okay. And
You're not
that's
getting
why
saved
I
by the red
rushed.
light.
That's why I rushed, Commissioner Cook. But yes, the accounting background it has aided in so many. Being a Res Life coordinator at Grinnell College and having to do budgets for programming, my accounting has helped. My accounting has helped so many times, and even the criminal defense area. I don't expect it to fail me to add something special to the skills that'll be needed. No.
Thank you.
Any other questions? You can't get out of here, though, without introducing your guests today. So we've done it, and they get to be on TV, so.
We have Elder Anna McDonald, who also is with me at New Beginnings, Full Gospel Family Church. And we have Sister Jeannie Armstrong, who's also with me at New Beginnings, Full Gospel Family Church. I will have to take a minute to say hi to my wife, who is looking at this over the stream, or you will get me in trouble tonight, because she did want to be here, and she pushed back a meeting, and I was like, honey, I know your support is there, so love you, honey. Justice Wiggins made me introduce the other members. Okay.
Anyway, thank you very much, and we wish you the best of luck.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you.